Hey,
welcome to Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, thank you for joining us on the complete Attack on Titan podcast.
Here we are, the very end. Well, near the end. The beginning of the end of season 1, episode 23. Smile. Yeah, this one gets intense, ladies and gentlemen.
That was my. No one can see that if they're listening to the recording, but I did my best creepy smile.
Oh, I'm proud of you. Well, we have our regular crew here today.
Yay! Becca's here! Woohoo!
You know,
Rachel's
just
here.
me, little Eric, little
I'm
Rachel,
here.
little Pete.
I've been here.
Little Pete, that'd be a good rap handle.
Little
Eric's here. We're all here.
All right, so to recap, can I just say it right away? It's Annie.
Yes.
It is Annie.
Yes.
Her name is Annie.
We
The
don't
female
have to
Titan is
bleep
Annie.
anything out this time. Annie.
We're putting together a video of all the times we've screwed up. So
I never
Annie
screwed
in the
up.
middle
I'm
of
just
the
pointing that out. I'm
podcast.
sorry. I don't need to keep pointing
All
that
of
out.
us boys who are on this podcast
Yes.
have at various points accidentally said her name
Spilled all the
while
beans.
describing the last 5, 6, I don't know how many episodes it's been. It's
Because
a
the
lot.
female Titan.
We know her to be
Annie.
Annie, and we discover that in this episode, and now we can say that
Mikasa
freely.
calls her out, and it's the best
Hallelujah.
moment.
Yeah.
I feel like
I really wanted Mikasa to. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So it's Annie. All right. So that's really what else? I don't need any other recap. This is the episode where we find out it's Annie. So all right.
Yeah.
Quick recap is we actually start the episode with a quick with Annie, and she's like training as a young girl, and it's just really interesting. Well, there are some spoilers I can't mention there. We'll get to that later. And it's Annie's young woman. Anyway, so then we get to what is the procession essentially from outside of the wall. Well, outside wall Maria. Yeah. No, wall Rose. What's the middle wall?
The
scene is the inside
very
wall.
Center one.
Anyway,
they're in
so
one.
the scouts have kind of basically come back in shame. They are summoning both, they're summoning Erwin and the leaders of the scouts, and they're summoning Eren, and so they are all having to do this kind of march of shame in a way back to the capital. And so in process of that, Annie, who's part of the military police, has given the assignment, which among many other 2,000, I think is the number of military police that are inside Wall Sina, and they're given the assignment to protect the convoy. And so she's like, oh, interesting. And so as she gets this assignment, they go out there the day of, and she runs into Armin. Armin actually calls her in secret, and he's like, hey, come help us protect, help Eren escape, because it's for the better. We can prove that he's innocent. And she's like, well, how do you prove that? And he's like, I can't really tell you why, but I need you to help me out with this. So we meet Marlowe, who's an interesting guy. He will come up again. I'm just going to say that much. He will come up again. We meet Marlowe, who's kind of like a do-gooder, and we actually get a little bit more context with Annie. She actually gives us a little more dialogue. She hasn't said a lot up to this point.
Yep.
Yeah, we kind of see her kind of going back and forth with Marlowe, who's like a actual righteous dude, and she's like sort of inspired by that. Anyway, next thing we know, Annie goes along with the deal, the Armin's plan, and she helps them. They say they need her help to go through a checkpoint. Then they get to this kind of deserted part of this town, and they are like, all right, we have to go underground now because this takes us outside the city or towards the edge of the city. And she's like, I can't do that. And they're like, what, are you afraid of the dark? She's like, yeah, that's it.
I'm a damsel, and you can't understand how I feel.
Armin drops truth bombs on her. You killed Sonny and Bean. Why didn't you kill me? We're gonna get into all the meat and all the juicy drama that happens right there in just a second. And then Mikasa calls her out and is like, I'm gonna carve you up again, female Titan.
Da-da-da.
Yep.
There, and that's the end of the episode. So we're about to get to the very end here. This is 23. We've got 2 more episodes to go. It gets even more dramatic, but I have to say that this episode is the episode. All of season 1 builds up into this one.
It's true.
The events of season of episodes 24 and 25 are important, and you will be riveted and you will enjoy them. But the events of episode 23 are what the most of this entire season has been building up to. Besides the fact that the first half of the season builds up to the fact that Eren has this Titan shifting power, the second half of the season builds up to the fact that other people have this, and not only do they have it, but there's a spy, and that spy is Annie Leonhardt.
If this was if this series was a roller coaster, which it is,
Mm-hmm.
if it was a roller coaster, we would have been climbing for the last little bit. And right now, we've just passed the apex point. We're about to start dropping, and it's starting
We're
to
just
get
like in that
real quick.
that pausing point.
As a preview for upcoming seasons, just know that if this feels like a roller coaster to you, which again, it is, and should be, just know that this is the roller coaster you rode as like a 7-year-old that was actually the kiddie coaster compared to season 3. Like this feels like a big drop.
It is a big drop,
that's true,
though.
that's
This is a
true.
big drop, but I'm saying
When you're
relative
6 years old, it's
to
a
the
big drop.
nature of the things that they drop on you in season 3, towards the end of season 3, like this is the drop that you experience as a 7-year-old, and then you grow up a little bit and you
You're
kind of
like,
get seasoned. You
Okay.
actually like grow into your full body, and then you're like, whoa,
Oh, this is so
that was the
scary.
kiddie coaster. Now I'm ready for like freaking Magic Mountain. What's the one at Six Flags that I always do? Goliath.
Yeah.
Goliath at Six Flags in Southern California like drops you freaking hard. That's what season 3 is. Yes.
Yes. It's
That's true.
Let's not downplay the fact that this, okay,
This is a big one.
immature love is still sincere love.
Yes,
Okay?
indeed.
So this is a big time, and these next 3 episodes are going like this. And so the first episode is going to take us off. So buckle up, strap in.
Yeah, strap in because
Keep
you're
your
about to get your
arms
mind
in a
blown.
safe position.
Got
Okay,
my
enjoy your
tray
ride.
table up, and my seat back in the full of
Right
right position. Tray table. Sorry.
All
All right, so we're actually just going to skip over the very first 2 scenes. I'm going to let your mind wander. The very first 2 cuts are what appears to be Annie as a young woman and a man, an older man, who says, something about Annie being his daughter. So we presume her dad. We really can't talk about that in any real detail if you're a first timer. So we're just going to glaze over that.
You get a tiny glimpse of her a very obviously traumatizing childhood.
Yeah.
Training.
Yeah.
She's being trained and told she's not allowed to rest. I mean, good grief. Child abuse.
You can
hello.
tell from the outset that the information they're trying to give you is she's been training her whole life.
She has never been shown
for a purpose. She's
compassion or love or being cherished in any measure whatsoever.
She's been a warrior since a little girl.
She's
Yeah.
not a child. She's not a little girl. She's a warrior.
Mhm.
She's a tool, and they're going to use her to try to get what they want done. Now, we don't know what they want done,
Or who they even
or
is.
who they
or
are,
if there is
or
a they.
where they are, or what they are. And
Is this
so
useful to you?
this is intense. So we're seeing Annie as a young girl training, and initially we knew that way back in the day, remember she had that martial arts training from her dad?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
mentions it. She
This
says
is
my dad
showing
was
us,
really good. Yeah.
and now we know she's not from around here. She's not from inside the walls.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she had all this martial arts training that no one ever knew, because she's not from inside the walls. She's from outside the walls, and it blows your freaking mind. So here she is training, and we know she's training outside the walls.
This makes you ask the question. This forces the question, which you should have been asking already by this point. I know I was. From episode 1, I was asking this. What and who is outside the walls?
Yeah, and it's the question that Erwin went to when Sonny and me get killed. He goes to Eren, and he says, "What do you think the enemy is?
Yeah.
Do you think it's just some dumb, mindless titan, or do you think somebody is orchestrating something
Mhm.
intelligently in order to take out humanity?" And now we know that Annie is one of them, and we see this scene from who knows where, somewhere, training, possibly to infiltrate the walls. And of course, they don't show you hardly anything because they don't want you to know what
Yeah,
to know
you
about.
literally
Keep it a
see
fat
like this
secret.
part of his face, like his mouth and nose.
So the next cut is Annie. This is where we can actually start to talk a little more freely. So Annie wakes up in her what looks like a dorm, and we actually know this from previous episodes that she was going to join the military police. She said as much, and then she isn't in that montage. Remember when all the people are walking away, and like Jean and Connie and Krista and the
Right.
gang are like standing steadfast, like they're all nervous because everybody else is walking away as Erwin gives the
Yeah.
call to join the scouts.
They're all crying. Well,
So
not
only
all
a
of them,
handful
but-
joined the scouts. We know that Annie was more or less top of her class, like she was top 10,
Yeah.
and that
She's one of the ones that walks away.
she's one of the
Well,
ones who
out of
walks
the
away.
whole 10 who were eligible to
Mhm.
join the MPs, and a lot of them are going to Jean and Connie.
Yeah, a
and
bunch of
all
them
these people.
didn't. A bunch of them joined the scouts.
Only one ended up going from that initial group. So
Yeah, it's true.
So this is Annie waking up in what we presume essentially is her MP dorm or whatever it is, her quarters, and so she wakes up and she looks like a wreck, which would make sense.
She
Been a
also
hard
wakes
night
up
of
in the
partying.
bottom bunk So she clearly has a roommate
Yeah,
of some
somebody.
sort who's not there, and it seems to me like it's late in the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, they even say when she shows up later to the rest of the soldiers, like, "Oh, you're finally up. Well, good for
She's
you."
been partying all
Yeah,
night.
and she
with
definitely
Levi
looks like a
and
mess,
Eren in
and-
the forest.
Now
She looks hungover, is how she looks.
she does. So she wakes up in this room. We examine the room for details. I don't know if there's anything super.
There's like
important
a
in there.
wine bottle spilled over,
Yeah.
and there's just rubbish
You're like,
everywhere.
"You're
and clothes
17."
thrown
Or
everywhere.
18.
Right. And so then the next cut is a couple of just townsfolk, but these are
They're merchants.
Cena,
perhaps?
Wall Cena. So quick, again, kind of refresher here. Wall Cena is the interiormost wall. So we're essentially in the cap. They're in Stohess,
They're-
right?
This one,
Yeah,
yeah.
Stohess.
They're right
So-
next to the wall.
They're in Stohess, which is not. Stohess is okay. So they're in an alcove. So in the same way that Shiganshina, where Eren's from, is an alcove on the
Trost.
very Trost. These are little alcoves just right on the outside of the walls. They showed this to you in those little in between cuts. But Stohess is one of those districts. It's an alcove, but it's on the alcove of Wall Cena. So it's considered
Yes.
part of Wall Cena. So considered part of the capital or the innermost wall. So this is where the well-to-do people are. And as we've seen little bits and pieces of so far, this is also where, as you would expect with money and power, there's some corruption going on, right? We know there's wealthy, folks in there that buy child prostitutes, i.e. Mikasa as a little girl. We know that somebody like Lord Wald, who we met when we first met Erwin, is kind of a big fat sucker of a guy who just was like, no, just protect me, from the Titans and so on. So we know there's some corruption stuff going on in there. So here we kind of hear some of the well-to-do townsfolk talking, and they're like, "Oh, the Titan boy is coming through town today," and they're kind of having this conversation, and this man who, this isn't much of a spoiler either, but we've seen a little bit of these guys before. There's a religion or something like a religion inside the walls, and they worship basically the walls themselves, and we see
The
a
three
priest guy.
goddesses of the walls is what he said.
Mhm.
And he had like all three images of all three walls on his necklace breastplate
It's kind of
thing.
some dope bling, to be honest.
It looks
Yeah.
cool.
He's probably
Yeah.
got some really good street cred.
He also had a very crazed expression on his face the entire time he was talking.
We got the jackets.
We do.
Can we get one of those necklaces?
I mean, do we have to sign up to the cult or anything?
I mean, if I have to,
to get some sweet bling,
yeah. I mean, I would.
throwing it out there.
So priest guy is kind of like freaking out, and the thing he's freaking out about is the townsfolk are talking about, oh, well, if they're coming through here, they better seal up the gates on their way in. So nothing, the idea is like keep us safe, like seal up the gates.
Yeah.
And this guy freaks out. He's like,
Don't
the walls are
defile the
sacred.
walls.
Yeah. So interesting little quip. Again, there's not much more we can really say about that, but something worth noting for this episode, and that kind of plot point will play out pretty quickly.
I feel like they're
Actually.
establishing that these guys are cray-cray.
Yeah.
And people pretty much ignore them for the most part.
And one dude says an interesting comment. He goes, "Man, they're still around," meaning
Yeah.
like these wall cults people.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we heard about the courtroom, about the wall people. Way back in the day, the very first episode 5 years ago, we saw a guy running around dinging the bell, and he was kind of like this apocalypse guy. He ends up getting eaten, but because of the walls being breached, fear drives people to make bad decisions and to try to do stupid things. So their wall cult grows in that 5 years.
Yeah.
So they've got some swing and some power, Eren says in the courtroom episode.
Yeah.
And now here they are amidst the inner city,
Yeah. So we're starting to get a few more glimpses of
how things work on the inside.
the capital. All right. So then we cut back to Annie. So Annie shows up for work, clocks in late, hair's a little crazy, and greets her fellow soldiers.
She's the
Yeah,
last
like
one.
half of her hair isn't even pulled back.
And this is where they mention like, oh, well, you're up late. It's like,
I think it's her roommate. She says, whatever her name is.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I
probably
tried
right.
to
She
wake
says,
you.
I tried really hard to wake you, but you just wouldn't wake up.
Well, I think she says something. You look so scary. I didn't want to wake
You
you.
were
up.
Oh,
sleeping
is that
so
what?
hard.
Yeah,
Oh, that's what she said. Okay, I
I wonder
misunderstood.
why. Yeah. It's
Sleeping hard because she had
and
a hard days, hard nights work out there.
killing all of our friends.
Also, her roommate seems like a slightly psycho lady. Just want to point that out. She's like
Yeah,
got that playful
Yeah, playful,
tone
crazy.
in her voice, and she's kind of like, she sounds all flirty and weird and like, oh no. I don't know.
Yeah,
She
I don't trust her
I just like
immediately.
immediately hated her.
Wouldn't want to room with her, let alone date her or get close to her.
Seriously.
She
As a-
seems like
As a matter of the
Sociopath.
timeline, just so we're all clear too. So the failed mission happened, and we're within probably days of because the mission, the whole female Titan saga, that all takes place in a single day. But the walls are large, okay, and it's going to take them a minute to march through Wall Rose and then towards Wall Cena. So it's not going to be instant. So as a matter of timeline, us seeing Annie waking up, it's sort of the way the soldiers talk. It sort of sounds like this is more or less their first day or one of their very first days on the job. So we know she's a fresh recruit because they actually say she just came from Trost.
But it says that she's been slacking off a lot.
Yeah.
Which means that this isn't her first day.
First day.
It
It's
could
her
be
first
the first
month,
week.
perhaps.
It could be
Yeah.
first month. And again, they don't tell us exactly when she signed up, when she was actually going to go into full-time training. And we know the scouts immediately had to because of their whole operation. But most likely this isn't the case for everybody. These are severe circumstances. What we're trying to say is there could be any amount of time.
Plus,
Yeah.
there was this like attack on Trost.
was-
that
But the
totally
idea
messed
is
things
it's not,
up.
it's not, what I'm trying to get at is this is not like the next day.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
Seems pretty likely this isn't like immediately after. This is shortly afterwards, but it's not like the very next day.
But they say that she's been slacking off a lot. She's been sleeping in.
That's key.
And she's hard to wake up, which tells us that not only is this not the first time, she's probably ran off to go do something devious in the night, maybe just, rendezvous or do something dirty.
Yeah.
But she's not known for waking up all the time. So what else has she been doing?
Exactly. She's essentially been doing something suspicious. Now, I think this also speaks to what we know to be true about the military police, which is that they're a bunch of lazy pieces of crap
They just
anyway.
don't care.
They got the
This-
cush jobs.
this
They're the
episode-
lucky few.
This episode really goes and shows us that. But I mean, was she keeping tabs on Eren the whole time? Was she, she's a military police person, but like,
They
if I
didn't
don't
care that much.
If I don't show up to my job, I get fired. Like, apparently, you can just do whatever you want in the interior. So
So the homeboy walks in, the leader of this group, and he's like scruff, looks a little
yeah,
haggard
kinda like
himself.
Eric.
Yeah, he
whatever.
definitely doesn't care about his physical appearance all that
You're
much.
looking good, looking fly.
And I'm wearing the jacket, except for this is a scout's jacket. Okay,
That's
this is
right.
not freaking.
These are the
military.
wings of
There
freedom,
is no
ladies and gentlemen.
unicorn on this jacket.
So homeboy walks in and is like, "All right, guys, your assignment today, as we mentioned in the recap, is to go protect this escort this
Convoy.
the Titan boy, the convoy that's coming into town. They're going to be escorted into the interior. You've got limited permission to use ODM gear, and inside city limits, which sounds like I guess they wouldn't normally
Yeah.
make sense.
Mhm.
Rich people don't like it.
Do you remember how he phrases it though?
What?
I've actually got some real work.
Oh yeah,
for you
some
today.
real work for you instead of odd jobs. Meaning, it's okay for Annie to slack off because she doesn't have any important responsibilities anyway.
Yeah, so this and mind you, they're escorts today. Standing around walking is real work.
That's cool.
To a military police
real
person.
work for them.
And it says that in the little infographic in between the scenes, it says that it gives some stats on the military police because we don't really know a lot about them.
Yeah.
We just know that their director is a weasel, and they have really cush jobs.
Yeah.
So it says there's about 2,000 military police standing, about 500 hang around the interior, 50 in certain areas, and it says in one of those infographics, it says that. What does it say?
It says some words.
Gosh.
I'm not as smart as you. I don't know what to say here. What did you notice that I didn't notice?
Just gonna say something that I can't remember what I was gonna say now.
Oh, okay. So
It's
must
really
not have been that
important.
important.
Really important. What was the other infographic?
That was
Oh,
it.
Sorry, their jobs. Thank you. Their jobs consist of
Right,
training
right.
new scouts,
Yeah, training
or training new military police.
Yep.
Right. Of course, that's what
Yeah,
everybody has to do. Fighting fires and overseeing the
The
garrison.
yeah. The garrison does nothing.
The garrison that
The
was
glorified
drinking
construction
on the
workers?
ground, they have supervisors. How jacked up is this bureaucracy? Okay, you guys, this is your government tax dollars inside the wall, going to freaking garbage to pay for
Dude.
supervisors to the guys who are drinking.
So it seems like the scouts are the only legit branch of the
They don't
military.
really do work.
Yes,
And
they
then
are.
the next one is the garrison. They kind of suck. They're basically just,
babysitters.
They got
Yeah.
other babysitters. They got nothing to
And
do.
they repair the wall when it's broken.
And the military police are
then
just the
they're
rich versions
overseen
of
by
them.
the even
They're
more
the
corrupt
supervisors.
version
Yeah.
of them. They don't really do anything either.
And
They're-
do you guys remember a couple episodes ago when the scouts come back in? Or was it last episode?
The last episode, and they actually say the townspeople are like, "Oh, our tax dollars just going to fatten up the Titans outside the walls."
And
Like,
these are the guys actually fighting
They're
against
the
their
only
lives.
people that are
Suckers.
actually doing anything.
Yeah.
Which just goes to
Jacked
show
up.
you why when the garrison is trying to defend against the attack that comes in Trost, they just get
They're-
slaughtered
they're elite
immediately.
troops.
They have
Their
no-
elite troops suck because all they ever do is sit around and drink and gamble and they just do nothing, really.
think about like basically they mention this a lot. They go out of their way to mention this multiple
The
times.
scouts just cleaned up.
That like even Annie, she's like, "Oh, she's coming back from Trost. She's actually seen a Titan."
Yeah.
The rest of these people
These
have never
MPs
even witnessed
seen
one,
Titans. Yeah.
let alone
Right.
had any combat experience.
But-
Which explains why they freeze
Yeah.
so badly.
But don't forget, these are also the people who have A, never seen any action, B, don't do anything, but they want to tell you how to run your life.
They're the
They're
most
the ones
entitled.
remember who they were saying, we don't want to disturb the peace. Let's just go ahead and kill this Eren guy. Otherwise, and you're like, wait a second.
Right.
You guys don't do anything? You've never seen any action
don't
before?
sacrifice or
and
risk
you want to
anything.
control how everyone lives their life?
Right.
Sounds like Isayama nailed politics.
Oh yeah,
To me.
for sure.
Dude.
Getting fired up. Let's chill out. All right.
So
Calm down.
all right, so they get their assignment,
It's
and
to
one of these dudes, this dude Marlo, who will come up again later, by the way.
Yeah.
He
He's not
speaks up
Marco,
and is
but-
like, yeah, he's not quite Marco, but he's somebody who joined the military police, and we know him. We'll get to know him here shortly as somebody who's got a little bit more of a noble heart. He's not just looking necessarily for the cush job. He's aware of what the military police represent, but he actually speaks up and he says, protecting them from what exactly?
Yeah,
We're gonna
who's
protect
gonna
this
attack
stuff, but
them?
who's going to attack them inside the walls? He's like, there is no organization. There's no rebellion in here. There's no Titans in here. Like, who exactly are we going to
There's
protect
3
them from?
layers of walls between us and the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
What is the enemy?
And the commander, dude, this says everything. This next action says all that you need to know.
It's so
The commander guy, it sounds like he doesn't actually know the answer to that question. He's like, "Oh, you're some wise guy, huh?"
You
and
take
takes
care
the
of it.
paper. He's like, "Here, it's all in here in the papers." And he just hands him the papers. Like, "Why don't you read the brief? We've got
in other
important
words,
work
I
to
haven't
attend to."
actually read it and I
Yeah.
don't know anything.
Right.
I've read it. I don't freaking care. Like, if you're such a wise guy, like you find out. Like, if you're the not lazy one, like, okay, then here, you read these papers and you figure it out. As for me, like us higher ups, we have
He
important
says,
business
"As
to attend to.
officers,"
And
yeah.
he takes off and opens the door, and they're in there playing cards and drinking.
And smoking cigars. And so this is the difference
Mm-hmm.
between that low-brow trash on the outside walls, the garrison unit. They just drink openly and play cards. But here in the MP, in the interior,
They got the
us high
cigars.
class,
They at
we
least
smoke
do it behind
cigars,
closed doors.
drink, and gamble behind closed doors. Yeah, they have got a little bit of decency at least. So we know that yeah, the MPs are a freaking sham. Nobody's worth anything in this whole thing. And so it seems like really the only guy who's honorable amidst this whole thing is Marlo. And at first he does kind of seem like he's kind of a stick in the mud guy, like we're going to make everything perfect and we're going to, and he's kind of giving some grief for wanting to actually like do things right.
But you gotta love the guy here in a second, because the
You do.
next cut is them at the fountain, and it's Marlo. What's her name? Hitch. It's another MP.
That's her name, Hitch. I was
Which
trying to
we-
think
yeah, I
of what
think she's,
the crazy
Annie's-
girl's name was.
Annie's roommate, and they're kind of like chatting it up, and basically Hitch is chiding Marlo. It's like, oh, like, what do you think you're gonna do? Like this is how this place works. Like, don't you know? And he's like, I'm here to fix the military police. I'm here to do something about this. And I'm like, well, how are you gonna do that? He's like, well, I'm gonna work my way up. And then he says the most idealistic thing anyone could say, which is, I'm gonna turn them all back into good people, or I'm gonna turn the military police into good people. I'm gonna force this to happen somehow.
And then Hitch loses her crap and
She-
literally falls down laughing.
RMFLO? Wait.
Roll, yeah. Anyway,
ROFL?
Raffalomeo.
Raffalomeo.
whatever it is, she literally
RFL.
falls down, grabbing her stomach and rolling around, laughing her face off, and saying he's a moron.
Yeah,
basically.
you're just such an idiot. And a couple other ones chime in like, oh, you're one of those guys, trying
Right.
to get things done.
And then we get Annie. We finally get a little peep out of Annie, because so far I don't think she has said anything even in this.
They all
episode.
seem shocked that her voice functions when
Yeah.
she speaks up.
like, oh, so you do talk, and she basically says, you know what, like, listen, everybody, like, I actually kind of Marlo. She's speaking to Marlo. Like, I admire you actually a little bit because I think you're an honest person because you say honest things, and I respect that. You know, I know what it means to go against I know what it is to go against the flow. I know people like that, and as she's saying that, it cuts to Eren. You know, flashback kind of to Eren of like him like
yelling
speaking
about
out
something,
and going against the flow.
Yeah, Eren, who stands up for what's right, who's indicative of justice, who like demands justice, and even so much so that he gets himself into terrible situations, fights against all odds for standing up for what's right. And here's this Marlo guy who nobody around him gives a crap. Nobody around him cares, and he's like, no, I'm going to fix it. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever done a class project or worked a job
where no one else wants to do any good
where
work.
no one cares. You're the only one who cares. And you're like, come on, guys. And you're out there busting your butt. You're like sweeping hard. Or you're like doing your class project like super good. And everyone else does a bare minimum.
Yeah.
And it seems like it doesn't matter.
It can be very frustrating for sure.
I'm going to tell you right now, it does matter. Okay. Marlo's one of the good ones. He's one of us. He's out here trying to change the world for the better. And we salute you. True salute.
True salute to you, Marlo.
Marlo, thank you. Now, this is a tough episode here, obviously, and you got the female Titan trying to give us a lesson in ethics, so we know that's going to be skewed. But we know that, and he says, if someone like you really got into power, I wonder if it could be the end for us. And
it
like,
would spell the end for us.
The whole, cushy jobs, the whole slacking off, like that could be the end of all of that, hypothetically. You're an honest person, right? Because you say honest things. I know there are people like that. She thinks about Eren, who stands up for what's right. And she says it takes courage to go against the grain, right? To go against the stream. I respect that. Or you could just be fools. Could all just be idiots.
Yeah, you might just all be morons. And this speaks to something that this show does incredibly well, which, all right, I'm gonna take a quick
detour.
I'm gonna deviate here for just a second. We're gonna change gears because this is important. Marlo and Annie is keep that in mind. So, in Hollywood, in big movies these days, and in television, this has been a trend for a while. I would even say decades, but specifically in the last, I would say maybe the last 5 years, 10 years, something like that. There has been a lot more writing of movies and stuff like that where, maybe Black Panther, for example, where the main villain, you start to learn more about the main villain, and they try and kind of get you to feel compassion for the villain in a sense, or at the very least, they're trying to get you to understand more about the villain. Now, there's something about this that I find true to life and very realistic, which is to say that in real life, people that we, maybe throughout history and stuff we would call villains, they are in fact complicated stories. Because people who do bad or villainous things oftentimes also, at least at some point in their life, also did good things. They also, in fact, very often, people who do very horrible things think that they're doing the right thing. They actually think that they're doing something in the name of righteousness.
They justify themselves.
Which, as another additional side point to my side point, keep that in mind when you think to yourself, I'm doing the right thing. That lots of people who were doing horrible, horrible things to humanity, horrible acts, things that we look back in history and like, well, that's egregious. They also thought they were doing the right thing. So there has to be so standard of ethics matters. Where you get your morals from actually matters, okay? So you've got lots of people like that who, so back to Hollywood. Hollywood's trying to paint a picture of villains these days that's a little more nuanced and a little more complicated. It's not just like, you're a bad guy who always does bad things with bad intentions, therefore we should put you in prison or do away with you or something of the sort. That story of the complicated villain has always been around, but what I've seen out of Hollywood in the last several years is a botched attempt, because they misunderstand it, but it's a botched attempt to tell that story of the villain who is a villain for a certain reason. And in Black Panther, they do this again. It's a good example where they basically, at the end of the movie, they do a horrible job like, oh, well, you should feel bad for this guy. The only reason he's doing bad stuff is because he had a hard life. Okay. Think about the next time, let's imagine for a second that somebody today walked into your house. You're listening to your podcast. Let's hear you're at work. You're just minding your own business. You're working hard. You're trying to do your own thing, or you're slacking off maybe because you're listening to your podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You're an MP and you're just messing around.
Whatever it is, you're not doing anything particularly wrong, and somebody just walks in and freaking slugs you in the face and rips your phone out and is like, you're never listening to this podcast again, and smashes your phone in front of you. A, that's tragic because you don't get to listen to us. But B, I don't care how, and at that point, you also would not care how hard of a day they've had. The only thing you care about the fact at that point is they have assaulted you and committed a crime, and the fact that they have just like destroyed your phone and like they've done real damage and violence to you as a person.
And you know this is wrong. Wrong is because two wrongs don't make it right.
Two wrongs do not make it right.
Hate cannot drive out hate.
Only love can do that. MLK.
Let's go.
Preach, my brother. Anyway, so my point is to say that in Hollywood these days, they're doing a bad job. They're botching it over and over again at trying to show this, like, what they're trying to do is like, oh, I want you to feel compassion for the villain.
Yeah.
But that's not the correct way. That's not the morally correct way, and that's not the lifelike way. That's not how it actually functions in real life. Villains in real life do not function that way. It's not like, oh, well, if I just got to know this villain's story, if I just knew more of Hitler's story, then I would understand it, and then I'd be okay with it.
Right.
Then it would excuse. Then it would somehow. The mistake is there. Is that, well, if you understood the villain had a hard life and this person doing these bad behaviors, they had a hard life, and therefore now that I understand that, it excuses the bad behaviors. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Not for a second. As a child, you understand this. Our instinct is to understand this, but it is a moral inequity, is a moral wrong to misconstrue those kinds of things. What is correct, on the other hand, what is an actual right way of illustrating that, I think, is what they're doing here in Attack on Titan, which is somebody like Annie. We now know her to be the female Titan. She's done some pretty villainous, vicious things, okay? And now here we are. We're also getting backstory on her. But the point in this story is not, oh, we should feel compassion for Annie. The point of the story is that the villain is also a human with a nature just like the heroes.
Yeah.
Heroes and villains have this in common. They both have they are both men. They're both but mortals. They're both but humans who have the capability of doing both good and bad. The capability of both having compassion and disregard for life. And we start to see that, and this show will go headlong into this next season, especially headlong into this. All coming up because we're going to see this same exact kind of conflict that Annie seems to be having right here, where she's sort of saying something that's kind of true. She's saying some bit of truth here, and yet she's also done egregious, like, villainous kind of things. She's an enemy who happens to also have some insight into things that are true, and she herself appears to be a little conflicted. So that's my long spiel on Annie. Anyway, she says, I respect you for going against the flow. That's the true part. The villainous part is the fact that she freaking murders.
Right.
Everybody. Anyway.
What is the respect of a killer?
Yeah, seriously. So, all right, let's just cut real quick because I spent so much time on that. So the next kind of important part is where Marlo sees these guards selling
corruption.
Military equipment, which is illegal, obviously.
To the merchants.
They're
merchants. Taking the taxpayer-paid equipment for the MPs. They're selling it for coin for bribes to the merchants.
Mm-hmm. So he goes to stop them, and they're like, oh, silly you. They put a coin in his pocket, like, you'll understand one day, basically.
Well, he stands up for what's right, and he says, no, like, that's wrong. You can't just sell. Taxpayers paid for this. This isn't your money, and you're profiting at this. This is wrong.
I think it's interesting that those two are so corrupt that they automatically assume that he's trying to blackmail them.
Yeah.
They
like,
don't
we'll
realize that
rookie.
he's trying to point out that they're wrong and that he should arrest them. They think he's trying to extort money from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then they put a coin in his pocket. They go to walk away. Let's go get a drink. We've earned it. And he says, no, like, you've disrespected the law. Like, what have you can't done. And sure enough, like, guys, if you're going to confront somebody, at least know that they're probably not always going to react to like, oh, you're right, we shouldn't have done that. No, they're going to probably be really violent. If they're this wicked, they're probably not going to be like, you're right, we should do the right thing.
Arrest me, take me away.
Just be ready to, throw down and know how to defend yourself and people you love, protect your family, right? Protect your morals, stand up for what's right. And if you don't cause the assault, but if someone's going to assault you, like, know how to protect yourself. So he stops like, no, this is wrong. And
he's like, such disrespect for the law.
They just beat the snot out of him. He's just completely unprepared for somebody who's wearing a uniform to be this wicked inside the walls. And it's like, guess what, friend? It's not all cracked up as is. A uniform doesn't make you good.
Yeah.
What you do with it makes you good, right? So they're beating the snot out of him, and it looks like they're going to kill him. And they're saying, like, you're under arrest. And we're going to take you
for treason
in.
And treating your superiors in a treasonous way, yeah.
And he again cries out like such disrespect for the law. He can't believe it.
Mhm.
Obviously, this guy was taught right from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't believe someone would see something so twisted.
Yeah.
And we see the
Well,
most
the unlikely hero
Unlikely
here is
hero.
Annie. She steps in to stop them and be like, basically apologize on his behalf. And then Hitch also steps in and is like, oh, sorry, our idiot friend here. He just doesn't know. We'll make sure he's not in any trouble for you guys again. And they're like, all right.
Unless you want to have a bigger problem on your hands. And then she points out that all the townspeople are like watching.
Yeah. You
So
want
they
to
don't
fight
come in-
right here. Yeah.
They don't come in and say, he's right and you guys are wrong. Look, townspeople, they've been selling your stuff. No, they come and they humble the guy who's trying to do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
They don't actually back him up. They just try to like protect his life without causing the most amount of stir.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they have no scruples. They don't care. And he at least saves his life and says, I think he's had enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes to reach for his gun. This is in the moments
He
afterwards.
begins to snap.
Corrupt guys walk away, and he goes to reach for his gun and is like thinking about it. And what's Annie's line here?
She says, if you want
You're going to make him pay?
to make them pay, I will support you.
Yeah, she's like,
basically.
I could get behind that. Like, I could support you. I could understand.
Let's
that.
murder them.
Yeah. Which again, this
Just
is the right way.
casually. Hey, you want to murder them? Shoot them in the back? I'll help you.
This is the
What?
right way to paint the complicated villain,
Yeah.
because she's like has a genuine sense of justice in this kind of microcosm here.
Here's what I think is happening. And this is just a theory. I could be wrong. In the comments, you'll probably tell me I'm wrong. But
Go for it.
what I'd like to say is I think when you've never seen anything, there's that thing about the ruler, right? You don't know, a straight line, a crooked line because you've been looking at a straight line for so long, right?
Right.
When you've been looking at a crooked line for all of your life, when you've been trained to be an immoral weapon just to kill, you've been trained to only be a tool, and then you meet someone like Eren, who's unshakable in his quest for righteousness, his quest for justice.
Yeah.
There's something about that in your heart you
inspiring.
want. When you see someone doing what's right and you've been doing what's wrong, you feel convicted, you feel wrong, you feel shamed, and some people want to lash out and beat the people up, and some people say, no, I want that. I want to be on the right side. I want to do what's right. Right? It's William Wallace. It's Robert the Bruce.
Yeah, Robert the Bruce.
I will never be on the wrong side again.
Mhm.
Right? He was in the right. I will never be on the wrong side again. So here I think Annie is fascinated that she finds people who stand up for what's right. And she's seen it in Eren, and now she's seeing it in Marlo, and she's saying, hey, wait a second. You could be one of those people, right? Or you could be crazy. I don't know. But all she knows is clearly the people in the MPs are similar to the people she's been hanging out with her whole life. Unscrupulous,
Yeah.
no morals. But when she sees somebody who's different than all the rest, who stands up, who has moral fiber, who wants to do what's right, she's like, okay, this is hitting something inside. And
Yeah.
I want to see where this goes. I'll back you up. I'm
Yeah.
so hungry for anything righteous. I'll do anything to see it. And I think that's where she's going right now, is she wants to actually see, wait, what does it feel like to be on the right side of history?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I realized I wrote her line down here. She says, I'm not against helping you with that. Like I could. Like I could be persuaded here.
I want to see where this goes. I want to see what it feels like to do something right.
Yeah.
And she
So-
wants to see what he's going to do too.
Yeah. And so he mentions, he's like, the fools
They have
you
an
talked about
honest
earlier,
conversation.
Well, he
who go
goes
against
through-
the flow.
He goes to reach for his gun, and he realizes he can't shoot this guy in cold blood in the back.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the courage to do it, and he's afraid of what's going to happen, the fallout. So he doesn't do it. He kind of falls down in defeat, and then
Yeah, that's when he's like, okay, the fools you were talking about earlier, like, would they have done it? Would they have like taken the shot? Basically, he doesn't say that. This is all inferred, of course. And you mentioned them those ones who go against the flow. He's like, I guess I'm. Her response is, yeah, the fools I mentioned earlier. Would they have done it? And her response is, they might have. Yeah, like she's basically again thinking of Eren.
Eren.
Like, he might have actually done it. Yeah, he's crazy enough.
And we think he would have, because we've seen Eren attack soldiers with a stick,
Yeah.
let alone a
When
gun.
he's a little
if
boy.
he had a gun, he's taking that shot.
Yeah.
He's standing up for what's right.
He probably would just pick it up and beat them with it.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I don't think he would actually shoot them in the back.
So Marlo's next response to Annie is, you mentioned going against the flow. He says, I guess I'm just the scum being swept away with it, the flow.
Dang.
Yeah.
And she's like, a lot of ordinary people are. Like, she actually kind of, like, again, there's so much like truth buried in here. But like,
Mhm.
a lot of ordinary people are like you. Like, they do
Just
want the right
going
thing,
with the flow.
but they're gonna be swept away. Like, when push comes to shove, like, they really might not have the guts to like do the right thing, to like make a sacrifice. And then she drops an interesting line. She says, being seen as a person is all I want.
Yeah.
Basically, all she's ever wanted is just be a regular person.
Just to be looked at it like that.
Like a person.
And here he is struggling with his own humanity. And she's like, I just want to have that humanity to struggle with. But Marlo is saying something here, right? He's saying like, right now, the easy thing to do is to not stand up, is to not speak out against injustice, is to not stand up for the poor and the downtrodden, right? It's always easier to fail. It's always easier to just keep your head low, just do what everybody else is doing and just, go along with the flow here. And he's saying, I don't want to just go against the flow. I want to do something right. But when push came to shove, when things get hard, when it might cost you something, are you still going to stand up for what's right? And G.K. Chesterton had a great quote. He says, a dead thing, any dead thing can go with the stream, but it takes a live thing to go against it.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody can just go with the flow. It's easy.
All
Even
men,
a dead thing.
All men die. Well, speaking of William Wallace, all men die, but not all men truly live.
Yeah.
Only someone who's actually alive can stand up and say, no, this is wrong. I'm going to speak out against injustice. And though it cost me my life, I'm going to do something right about it. And we see there's something in Marlo. He wants to be that hero. He's just not there yet. We say, hang on, Marlo. You're not alone. Stand up for what's right. Keep speaking out against injustice, guys. Keep doing the right thing, even though no one, might care or no one might help you out. Like, it's the right thing to do, and it will pay dividends. You're not alone.
Yeah. So our next important scene is Annie on the job. She's marching around with the rest of the other MPs. The day to escort or the time to escort has come.
Following the convoy.
Following the convoy around. We see some people with ODM gear and so on and so forth. And then Annie's kind of at the back of her little march, and she hears somebody call to her and say, Annie. And she like turns and like walks down to this alley and sees Armin. And Armin's there in his little cloak, and she's like,
There's like a hooded figure in her peripheral vision.
It looks creepy too at first.
He does. And she's like, why you dressed like that? And he's like, oh, I'm hiding cargo. I'm hiding my
smuggling
ODM gear.
ODM gear.
And so they get into this incredibly interesting conversation, and Armin just pitches it to her right away. He says, hey, listen, I know you're part of the military police. Will you help us get Eren out? We want Eren to escape, and we need your help. What we need you to do is, since you're MP, we need you to help us get through a military checkpoint at the last wall so we can get him out of here. And she addresses it and is like, hey, this is rebellion. It's just like treason. Like, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, shouldn't be doing that. And he goes, well, listen, the point of this is that what we need here is we actually just need to buy time. We need to buy time because we know that we can gather enough evidence to overturn anything the council says against Eren. Here's the thing: is Armin is telling the truth right there. By the way, the evidence being Annie herself. She doesn't know that. She actually asked him. She's like, "Okay, well, what's this?"
He says they're trying to gather some things.
Yeah, trying to gather some stuff. We're trying to gather some stuff here. If you know what I mean. And then she's like, "Okay, well, what is it you're trying to gather?" He's like, "I can't say, but I do need your help here." And she's like, basically turns him down. And she's like, "Do you think I'm that good of a person that I would?"
Well, first he says, if you don't help us, this is going to fail. We basically bet everything on you making this work.
Oh, we bet everything on you helping.
That was the bet.
There it was.
We bet everything on you make this thing work. And that's when she says, do you really think I'm that good of a person?
Yeah. And here we go into another
very
delicious moral quandary that I love to talk about. And I love Armin's response here. I love Armin in general, but I think he nails this one. And he's like, listen, this phrase, I don't like it. Like, I don't like the phrase good person. Here's the thing is, neither do I, Armin. I'm with you. Yeah. Neither do I. And he says the reason I don't like the phrase good person is because people only tend to use it when it's convenient for them to make an assessment of someone else.
You're not a good person if you don't do what I want you to do.
Exactly.
It's used to manipulate people usually.
Yeah. Yes. It is a manipulative tactic. You are a good person if you do say or believe X, and you're, quote, not a good person if you don't do or believe, or say X. And it's so true. Oh, this is true in real life right now, especially right now. Like, you don't have to get on the internet for more than 5 seconds to find somebody who's like, oh, well, you're to make the accusation that somebody is not a good person, or to infer of themselves that I am a good person because I posted X hashtag or because I did X thing. You know what I mean? Like,
whatever it is, it's like everyone's trying to define themselves on one side of this line or the other without having a coherent standard that we all follow and agree to and say, well, this is why I'm a good person. It's just kind of this arbitrary thing that everyone's just throwing out there, trying to justify themselves and feel good.
And it's what Armin's saying. It's a matter of convenience. People only tend to use that phrase when it's convenient for them. They're like, oh, well, I'm a good person, or you're a good person. I'm basically a good person. This guy's a good person. This one's a bad person. And that is the oversimplification, right, that I was trying to say that, or strike against earlier, which is to say that, people are just, a villain is a bad person who does bad things with bad intents and has bad behaviors. Well, it's not really true. A bad villain is a bad person, or could be, a quote, bad person can do very good things, and vice versa. A quote, good person can do very villainous things and have villainous behaviors, and it all depends on where you're coming from. It's what your perspective. It's all relative. It is in fact relative to what you consider to be moral. And so he says, he surmises, he finishes his point with basically saying, listen, that's whatever, but if you say no to this, in my eyes, like I would think you're not a good person. And
you're a bad person is actually what he says.
I would think you're a bad person. He's actually playing to the relationship that he already has with Annie, which we've seen a little bit of. She hasn't had a relationship with many people so far, but the only person who's really seems to have
made a connection with her.
Yeah, made any
Cracked
connection.
a little bit of the shell that is Annie.
Is Armin. And that's back in episode something. I can't think of the number.
They're still recruits, I think.
But the episode where, it's the Sonny and Bean episode where they're investigating Sonny and Bean. And Armin says to Annie, like, well, I actually kind of like you. I think you're a great person, basically.
He says she's a good person.
Yeah, I think you're a good person. And she like...
Which is funny because they're talking about good person.
But she
person.
has like a reaction.
She's
any
like,
reaction.
Yeah.
You think I'm a person?
Yeah, exactly. You think of me something other than just a tool, just a weapon, just a soldier, just a warrior.
So...
She agrees.
She agrees.
To help.
And she
after
turns...
That.
And she puts on a ring.
She puts her gun down and puts a ring on her finger.
Yeah.
Interessante.
Which is very interesting.
I'm like, ooh, she's going steady with Armin now. Hey.
Is that their...
I just remember thinking
the promise ring or something?
I remember thinking, why are they making such a big deal about this ring right now?
Yeah, something's up with this ring. So they have this plot schemed up where Eren is, being substituted in this escort by Jean, and Eren says, good old horse face. He looks nothing like me. And the joke is, of course, it's like they both have dark hair.
Look very similar to
but
one
also,
another.
it's anime. Everybody looks like everybody else. Kind of hard for us to tell, the difference.
Well, they just put a wig on him, and he looks exactly like Eren.
But the whole thing about the Attack on Titan thing is, like, in cartoons, you recognize them because they wear the same thing all the time, and their hair is the same. And in the new season trailer, all their hairs are different. So we're like, I don't even know who that is anymore.
Who?
I think this is this person. You guys helped out a lot with that. Thank you. Anyway, so they got this grand scheme up. So it's just Eren, Mikasa, and Armin, the trio, walking with Annie, who's escorting them, helping them get past this checkpoint. And they're kind of walking and they're talking, and it seems like Annie's trying to ask a few probing questions.
Yeah, probing important questions. She's like, so how did you plan to escape if I didn't agree to help you? And like, well, ODM gear. We were just gonna go for it, make a big scene, basically.
But we thought this would be safer. It wouldn't be a direct conflict. They're playing it off pretty good. And Armin says, over here, quick. Here's the place.
Yeah, he kind of peels off quickly.
She asked another good probing question, which again, as you watch the show, if you're as analytical as we are, you're trying to find okay, well, this timeline thing and this whatever. Annie's actually kind of doing some of that for you. She asked another question I really love, which is, okay, well, you've been on your way in here for some time. This has been probably days. Why didn't you just escape sooner? You're all the way here inside of inside of Stohess and sort of Wall Cena. Why didn't you just escape at some other point? And he basically is like, oh, well, this was the quietest way to do it. This is the way that actually buys us the most time. And again, good answer, because that's okay, believable.
Armin's clearly thought about this beforehand.
Strategized.
And he's clearly lied to his parents about where the cookies were at one point in his life. Mom, somebody broke in the window.
I don't know.
They used ODM gear. They took the cookies, they zipped away. Go to your room, Armin. We're giving you this bowl cut as punishment. That's why he's got his coconut head. So anyway, so they peel off. There's this
Armin
underground.
peels off first, and then he's like, it's this way, it's this way.
Yeah, we got to go through this. This was going to be a city, And Eren's selling the whole thing too. Oh wow, this is gonna be a city. Cool.
Yeah,
Like,
well, he says, yeah, this is gonna be. Here's this stairs that leads to this underground area where
It
they're
goes
gonna build an
under the
underground
wall.
city,
Yeah.
and it leads to the outside, or leads to the edge of the city, leads to the edge of Walsina. Now, here's the thing: is he actually might be telling the truth there? As
Yeah.
well. I actually tend to think that's
probably
probably true.
accurate.
Because if, again, we'll get to this in the spoiler sections, but I believe that the underground, escape route thing sounds realistic.
and they need Annie to get them through a checkpoint supposedly. So they're like, oh come on, yeah, we gotta go.
Oh, she also. Oh wait, sorry.
They-
Armin's explanation. We need to buy more time. This is a complex layout. The city is a complex layout. He
Yeah.
mentioned that. Sorry, I just said that because my brain clicked right there. He says that the city itself, because they're in Stohess, and you notice that the architecture here
Pretty
is much fancier.
complicated looking.
It is much more complicated. The streets are narrow. Like there's a lot going on in this like city architecture.
There's boats.
He's like, it's complex here, and it's going to buy us some more time. Okay, sorry. Continue.
So they go to. I'll go down. They're kind of talking like, oh wow, cool underground city, and Eren looks back, which is not a good tell. Like you shouldn't look back because you're already a little playing. He sells it pretty well. Looks back. Oh Annie, what's the matter? You're not afraid of like.
well, she stops at the top of the stairs
Yeah.
and they keep going.
Yeah, and he's like, you're not afraid of some darkness, are you? And she says, actually, I am. I'm really afraid of the dark, and you wouldn't understand a suicidal maniac like you, which is the same name.
She says,
that
brave
Armin used.
suicidal maniac like you.
It's the same name that Armin used to get the female Titan to stop attacking Jean. It's the same thing that
Mhm.
Jean calls Eren way back in training camp.
Mhm.
Something that only they would know. She says it, and you're like, she's on to us, right? And he says,
She says, you wouldn't understand how a damsel like me feels
yeah.
in this situation because you're a brave suicidal maniac and you never think.
And the music makes it feel really tense and really cringy, and you're like, And they're gonna blow it, and Eren comes in and says, come on, I've seen you flip a full-grown man. You're
Like,
not
you're not
afraid or
afraid, yeah.
whatever. Come on, just hurry up and get down here.
You're no damsel that's weak and scared. Get down here. Cut the crap.
Yeah. And
She denies. She's like, I'm not going down.
and they're like, what? Come on down. It's really great down here. It's like the clown in like, come on down under the stairway. And she's like,
For
No.
some reason, this place has been deserted for a while.
she looks around, and you can now we as
There's
the
like people
overhead
hiding everywhere in regular
Scouts
people.
and-
The camera
and
zooms out.
You see all the ninjas that are waiting in the shadows.
Yeah.
You realize a couple of things at that point when they zoom out. It's like, okay, wait. So this whole thing is a setup. This whole thing is a trap. And we were discussing earlier, okay, this might be a good point to talk about this. This is a trap to get Annie. So suffice to say that we now know for sure that the scouts, with Armin and Erwin as probably the brains here,
Mm-hmm.
has set a trap to capture Annie. Were they coordinating with the interior, with the military police? I'm going to go with probably not, because they don't want to risk spilling the beans here. But they were coordinating with a lot of people, and they were coordinating with at least some number of people who are going to be in Stohess at the time, because you've got plainclothes folk
Yeah.
kind of hiding. You've got people in ODM gear. Everybody's hiding, and like not only that, but the place is deserted. And Annie notices that like the place is deserted because they coordinated it to
Yeah.
be that way.
Just in case
Just in case.
something went awry.
So, sorry, I thought I lost my deal here. Okay, so yeah, this place has been deserted for a while, and then she drops her line.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this hurts.
Man, that really hurts. And that's when you know. Okay, so when I was first watching this through, I did not know it was Annie. And if you didn't hear any of our spoilers, you also wouldn't probably not have known it was Annie, because Annie has so little airtime before this. She's around, and like if you could do the process of deduction and have the the time and the gumption to go back and kind of figure it out, you probably could do the deduction and go, okay, I think it's her because it's a female. It was somebody who was after the 5-year mark, somebody who, after the first wall goes down, is somebody who was a cadet who knows Eren personally, who knows this nickname. It's somebody who's trained and knows how to fight hand to hand and combat.
Someone
you put all
who's
that
athletic,
together,
which is something that they constantly attribute to Annie as one of
Yeah.
her characteristics,
And
is that
Eren-
she's very athletic.
Eren even says,
yeah,
he's about to say.
right.
Also, I think that whatever it was that Armin wanted to relay to Commander Erwin, I think that's what it was. I think he had already figured it out at that point. Because remember, he never finishes his sentence, but he says, you need to tell him something. And then he gets cut off.
Yes,
I think that's what he was going to
He
tell
might
him.
have some suspicions.
So
throw it
Armin's
on.
probably been onto this thing for like a while, And so he has for sure figured it out.
I think when he was knocked down in the grass and he looked up at her, I think
that's when he
knew
realized.
from that point.
Well, the next episode's going to reveal about how they end up 100% nailing down that it's
how
Annie.
they realize that it's
They're
her.
going to tell us exactly what happened. The thought
Yeah.
process.
We'll get more into that in the next episode. We're not spoiling too much here or anything. In fact, not at all, because this episode has revealed all of that stuff. So she says, "Man, that really hurts." And then her next line is, "At what point did you start looking at me like that, Armin?" Which is an interesting,
Which he's had crazy eyes this entire episode.
yeah. He's been a little nervous.
He's had like dark circles under his eyes, and his eyes have been like wild and crazy, and he's been trembling almost the entire time. And they're showing you that.
But
she's so observant.
She's asking, when did you stop looking at me as a friend,
as a
And
human,
a person.
as a assassin or someone to trick and to like corner?
Yeah.
And it's hard because, man, at the same time, we want to like infer humanity on her and be like, you're not just a weapon, you're a human, you can make good choices. And Armin sees that and Eren sees that, and they both try to like call out the good in her and speak to the good. And Eren even says like, look, you're probably part of some like terrible prank or whatever, just come with us.
This is a joke.
You can prove something if you come down with us. You can prove like you're not just a monster, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Armin here is actually clutching. They show him clutching the smoke signal. So that's the moment when you realize like, oh yeah, this is something else is going on here. Oh, sorry, my point from earlier. When Annie says, "Man, that really hurts," that was the moment that I realized the first time through that she was the female Titan. Like it took me all the way. Sorry, I totally missed my point from earlier. It's like there's all this evidence that stacks up, but you would miss it pretty easily.
Yeah.
I did, and then she goes. Right as soon as she like stops, like as soon as she stops at the top of the stairs, I was like, wait a second. And they're like, "Man, that really hurts." I'm like, it was you.
The whole time.
It was you, you piece of crap. And
I
then
think when she says that, "Man, that hurts," I don't think that she's saying that like, "You've betrayed me." I think she's like, "Wow, I feel emotions."
That Armin.
No,
was
I
the
think
one.
I think she feels betrayed by Armin, who was kind of her only real friend.
Right, but I think she's marveling at the fact that she's hurt.
Yeah.
I think she's like, "Man,
She's
that
feeling
hurts
emotion.
because you cornered me and you trapped me."
And she may have not thought she was going to feel any emotion at all.
I think most of the time she doesn't. I mean, it sure seems like she's a freaking robot. Like doesn't have any emotions. She has that same stoic, blank expression.
Then Armin starts dropping the fact bombs on her.
They just
and
spill
like,
their guts
He
to
just
each
why
other.
did you
He whips out from under his coat like a fact bomb, like
machine
gun.
guns?
It's like,
And this first one is like, why did you have Marco's ODM gear? So, bam, revelation. She had Marco's ODM gear. Did you kill Sonny and Bean? Bam, revelation. Sorry, Armin knows that she had Marco's ODM gear because if you remember, we've made a big deal of this of Marco. Marco died. Okay, and Annie now confesses that she took Marco's ODM gear. And remember that when Sonny and Bean died, they were inspecting everyone's ODM gear.
So how can they
to
find
see how
the
recently
killer?
it had been used? Yeah, they couldn't find the killer because she had Marco's gear, which had not been recently used. Armin only knows it's Marco's gear because Armin, this is like just pure luck. Armin happened to help Marco do maintenance on it and saw the scuffs and marks and stuff on it. And then, oh, dude, I love this part. Oh, I love this
It's
part.
like Sherlock Holmes right now, just like hitting her with everything.
And she confesses, she's like, I found that gear and I took it. And she says to him, if that's what you suspected a month ago, why didn't you tell anyone then? Like, why didn't you notify anybody at the time? Which is a valid question. And he's like, listen, if you thought I was up to no good, if you thought I killed Sonny and Bean way back then, why didn't you say anything? Like, what? Like, if you were so suspicious, you're so smart, like, what was up then? Like, and he goes, listen, I didn't want it to be true.
I can hardly believe it right now.
I can hardly believe it right now. Like, I wanted to believe that I had it wrong all along. And he's actually confessing. He's like, I like you. And there's a friendship. There's something there that's making him going, no, like I didn't want to believe somebody I'd trained with and been a cadet with and had this kind of friendship with. Like, I didn't want to believe that because think about it. We already mentioned this. The point where Armin says to her, like, I think you're a good person, Annie, and she kind of like reacts a little bit, is while they're standing in line to have their ODM gear investigated.
Yeah.
And she's wearing Marco's gear right then, and Armin already knows it.
And that's kind of why probably she like, if you only knew what I just did.
Right.
Dang.
And it's sad because this is the cost of believing the best about somebody.
Yeah.
All those scouts didn't have to die if
Armin had spoken up earlier.
It's not all him. Obviously, it's on Annie, but like still, if he had put two and two together, if he had started to being skeptical and suspicious, started thinking like a strategist, not just like a friend.
Why is she wearing Marco's gear?
But we
Weird.
want to believe the best about people. We want to infer the best into them. We want to grant them dignity and humanity as we do that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So there's this short exchange between Armin and Annie here, where Annie throws it at Armin and says, well, why didn't you say something earlier? He's like, because I like you, basically. Like, I like you as a person. Like, I know you. I didn't want this to be true. I don't believe you to be a wicked person. I don't actually think you're evil, is really that's the subtext there.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's
Then
saying.
Armin throws it back at her and is like, they flash back to the point where she,
he's laying in the grass.
as in Titan form, and he's laying in the grass. She could just stomp him, and she doesn't. She lifts up the hood and looks at him, and she could stomp him right then. She knows it's not Eren. It's not the target.
No, that's the second time. That's when she kicked him off of his horse, and he was bleeding from his head.
Yeah, and he said, I'm surely dead now, and she ran off.
Yeah, she twice let him live.
She could have killed him. So I'm saying, like, when she lifts up his hood and sees that it's not her target, it's not Eren, she could stomp him right then, and she doesn't.
Right.
And there's this, like, their eyes meet right there, and she lays him down and moves on. Now, basically everybody else, she kills.
Yeah.
Basically everybody else she kills. And he goes, and he's like,
spare him.
Yeah, you didn't have to spare me. Like, you didn't kill me back then, and the fact that you didn't kill me is why we're in this situation right now. Like, we wouldn't have ended up getting this far. Like, she's throwing at him like, hey, like, how did we get this far? Like, you could have stopped this beforehand, but you chose not to. And he's like, yeah, you could have stopped this, and you chose not to. And I just love this exchange because there's a very deep subtext there, which is to say, like, you believe the best about me, and I believe the best about you. And Armin's I think he's actually trying to use this as his persuasion, like, and we'll find more from Eren and Armin both in this next exchange are both like, no, like, you can prove this all wrong right here, right now. Like, they still want to believe the best about her all
even
the way
to the
through.
End. Yeah. And there's a kind of there's a cross romance going on. Like, I wanted to believe the best about you, and you wanted to believe the best about me, and she says, I agree with all my heart. Like, maybe I should have killed you, but she says, I never imagined you end up cornering me like this.
Yeah.
So that's true. She for sure feels betrayed. Like, dang.
And then Eren explodes. And he's like, come on, just come down here. This is all just a joke, right?
Yeah. And she says, no, I can't. I'm a failed warrior. Armin says, we can discuss this. And Mikasa says,
enough. Hell hath no fury like Mikasa's wrath.
Yep. And I mean, I see both sides of it. I see the one side of like, no, try to reason.
Let's discuss this as friends.
Let's
Come
try
down
to
here.
get someone as much as we can to the very end to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Even if they've done wicked things, come on, let's get them to do something good, right?
Yeah.
Let's get some convict to start doing good things with his life. Let's turn all things, that are wicked to good. And at the same time, I'm also like, you done wicked.
She's past the
there's
line.
some justice that needs to get
It's time
down.
to just rain down
some
fire.
Mikasa style justice.
And she pulls it out. She throws out the blaze and is like, I'm gonna carve you up again. Female Titan. It's Annie.
And then Armin shoots the right.
And the flare.
Yep.
And Annie laughs
all the ninjas jump
like
out.
a freaking crazy psychopath Joker.
Joker laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, she like uses crazy only in movies villain laugh.
Yeah.
And I think this is really odd regardless.
You made a good point about this. Sorry, go ahead.
But I think what I infer from this is that she's finally gets to let the mask slip.
Yeah. That's what Rachel was saying. It's like she doesn't have to lie anymore. She's like, she can like laugh and smile, which she hasn't done any of. She never does.
She like lets out all of her, and it comes out really psychotic because she's been like stuffing all of her emotions for so long.
Yeah.
So she just like does this crazy, like you said, Joker laugh.
She said, I'm glad I could be
She turns all red and everything.
a good person for you, but my bet begins now.
Dang, it's nice to be a good person. Yeah, she says you've won your bet. Sorry, remind me. Armin's bet earlier. We actually discussed the line.
They bet everything that Annie could get them through.
Yeah, she's like, well, you've won your bet. Like,
which she did get them through the checkpoint.
Yeah. Did she though? Because I thought the checkpoint was at the wall itself.
But she's alluding to his bet was
because she's still with
she
them.
was the female Titan.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think too. Is there's his bet that it's her, that she's the female Titan. She's like, well, you've won your bet, and my bet begins now. And she goes to bite her hand. And then, holy crap, plainclothes police, ninja, stealth warrior, scouts.
They cover some distance. These are some Kenyan sprinters. These guys.
They like jump out from everywhere and
she
just
can't even
surround
get to
her, and they pull her hands away from each other, and then they put something in her mouth so she can't bite anything.
For those of you watching, I'm going to put my hand in my mouth. Eric, you try to stop me. Okay, so see how quick that was? They cover like 30, 50 feet, 100 feet. He's sitting right next to me. He can't stop me from doing it, right?
If I had ODM gear, I could stop.
You're right. I could do anything. With
So anyway,
If I was
they
Mikasa.
superhuman spring out of the shadows.
yeah,
and
so you're like, they did it. They stopped her.
they surround her in a very similar way to how she was surrounded in the woods. It's kind of interesting the way that they just like
True, they,
splay her
capture
back.
her.
Yeah, and she can't move.
That's a very good point. Anyway,
But
she's
then
got
we find out what that ring was for. That freaking ring that they made such a big deal about her stopping and putting on. She like flicks it somehow, and this little spiky thing comes out, and she flicks her thumb across it.
and then
And then we see the
strikes,
yellow lightning.
and the townsfolk are like,
And
"Huh?"
we
yeah.
see all those
All the
plainclothes
women and
dudes.
children go,
And those plainclothes dudes, as she's lightning strike, they're being flung. Like they're
Yeah.
probably dead.
They're
Which
just
sucks,
transformed.
because
They're
they were
probably
so
dead.
fast. Those
I
guys
know.
could have been messengers. They could have won
Good
races,
soldiers.
the annual
sad.
3-wall Olympics. This guys could have done anything. They could have been.
the
I don't
three-wall
know.
the Attack on
Olympics.
Titan version of a marathon. As you
They
go
just-
all three walls.
They could have done anything, and they gave their lives. Stinking Annie again. She's killed more people.
So Mikasa pulls a Mikasa and grabs Armin and Eren by the collar and flies down the
Runs
stairs
them down
away
the
from
stairs. She's like,
away
it's
from
too
danger.
late. Like they've got her. Nope, it's too late. Good old Mikasa, dude. I freaking love her.
To be continued.
To be continued. So that about ends it for.
I remember screaming a lot the
Oh.
first time through when that to be
Yeah.
continued popped up. I was deeply offended in my soul.
Oh, I didn't. I was like, skip outro. Get me to the next episode now. I must know.
I just cut it up and snorted it. I was just like, give it to me, my veins.
put it directly, freaking slap in your arm and give it to me directly and give me the direct injection.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the end of the episode. That's also the end of the spoiler-free section of the show, as we are often want to do. If you're enjoying the show, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review, please. Pretty please, on Apple in particular. Thank you for those of you who've already reviewed the show.
Thank you so much.
We highly encourage you to continue to participate. The YouTube comments section, honestly, that's where it's at. So youtube.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Join us there. You can watch the show there and see our definitely too small
Mine fits all right. It's a
made
little
in
too big,
China Attack on Titan jackets / shawl. Well, the shawl's about the right size.
actually. Yeah, it's fine.
The jackets are a little small, but you get to see us wearing these ridiculous things and sweating in the heat because I don't have an air conditioner in here yet. So join us on YouTube. Specifically comment though. The conversation is why we're doing this in the first place. So love to hear from you guys. Also join us on Facebook. We do this live Sunday nights is our main time right now.
Sometimes we have a bonus day.
we're going to be doing much more.
Beyond the Basement Podcast.
We're going to be doing much more of the extra content. We are trying to get all the way through season 3. It's going to be a tall order.
Oh man.
All the way through season 3 before they drop season 4. I'm actually still hoping they delay it a little bit to give us time to finish this thing up.
I won't, guys. I won't hope they delay it. I want it as soon as we can get it.
We're gonna get it an hour after it
I'm on
comes
your
out in
side.
Japan,
We'll-
guys.
Yeah, we're officially Crunchyroll subscribed. We will be.
will
Will
happen.
they have they'll have the subs done, right?
Yeah.
Right away. We just have to watch
I
it.
hope
That's
so.
Normally it's the dub that's just suspended.
Hopefully that Pete's interpreted or learned enough Japanese to interpret for us.
I'm pretty sure that is implied. That
Nande! Nande! I'm not much.
Baka!
He knows a few things. Anyway, join us. Watch the show. Subscribe to the various channels.
Email us.
beyondthebasementpodcast
Send us a
@gmail.com.
smoke signal.
I definitely want to hear you guys' theories, or if you're enjoying the show, or if something we're talking about is striking you in some particular way, you just email us. We'll get back to you.
Or a couple of you guys pointed out where we've accidentally had a few spoilers. So thank you.
Whoopsies. Sorry
Keeping
about
us-
that, guys.
Keeping us safe. Hey, we can't do it all. All right, we need some scouts, some
We
good
are
cadets in the
indeed.
wings.
Human.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So for the rest of you who want to join in the spoiler section, carry on. But
Spoiler
if not,
alert, spoiler
pull
alert.
your phone out of your pocket, press the pause button, because we are about to spoil all the stuff that you don't want to hear, that you want to figure out for your own self. So
You worry
You got
about
f-
yourself.
you have 3 seconds, and this message will self-destruct. 3, 2, 1. This jacket's really small and really hot. Whew.
It only took me 22 episodes to get everybody doing what I was doing since episode 2.
Dude, I wasn't
So
wearing extra
hot.
clothes. It gets warm in here.
Okay.
Oh, quick spoilers announcement. I think
It's
I've already
Annie.
said
Oh,
this.
wait.
Yeah, it's Annie. It's Annie. I should have said this in the non-spoiler section. I think I did last time, but we're gonna try and make some updates and some upgrades for season 2. So you'll see a few changes to the show. Don't be surprised. We're trying to improve things for
So
you.
that's not necessarily a show spoiler. It's
No.
just, I had a spoiler.
All right. First spoiler for me
Oh, yeah.
is really more of like a theory spoiler. So the very first scene in here is Annie's dad, and we've been theorizing for a minute here, and you will have heard this if you've listened to every episode so far.
Yeah, if you've been riding with us for a while, we've been kicking this theory around.
That perhaps Annie's dad is Zeke.
Because the blonde hair, because the maybe...
Well, and the facial structure, to me, like the blue eyes, and I don't know.
A harsh warrior.
I'm still not 100% convinced that she's not.
Not just a trainee, but a trainer.
What was the thing about, we thought the royal blood, she might have
there could be a royal blood thing in there, which Zeke does.
Explains why they're so obsessed with getting her back.
Yeah, because she's someone, at the very least, she's someone really important's daughter.
Yeah, and so...
Zeke's.
Plus, she has one of the Titan powers.
This first scene doesn't necessarily entirely disprove that, but because we don't see the face, we don't see the full face. We see nose and mouth.
You just see the mouth and nose. You don't see the eyes or anything else. And there is no facial hair, and we do hear the voice.
We hear the voice, and I don't think it's Zeke's voice.
Every single time Isayama shows us outside the walls, he does it in a way you can't tell what's going on. Right?
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
The ISIS version where you can't tell where they are or what's going on. And so he just shows the lower side of
you don't even
mouth.
see an eye or anything.
And in anime, that's like you might as well just cover his whole face because we can't tell who's who anyways.
Know.
Yeah.
But I have a theory.
What's your theory?
If it wasn't somebody important that we might recognize, they wouldn't have covered his face.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe it is a character that we've already seen?
I don't know. Who outside
there
the walls
is a
we've
reason.
already seen?
It's true, though. There's a reason why they're not letting us see the
why
whole
wouldn't
face.
they show us his face?
Yeah. If it's
unless it is someone we haven't known, but eventually they want to slowly reveal that. Like, by the way, this character we introduced in season 4, who you kind of grew up to know, that's Annie's dad. What? No.
Yeah.
But so we thought it was Zeke. It doesn't look like it's Zeke. It could be Zeke because he could have shaved and he could have.
Maybe he's younger and his voice sounds different.
Who
the heck knows?
I think that the guy that we're looking at appears older than Zeke as we know him in season 3.
True.
It doesn't look like it's Zeke. So
maybe he's whoever's in charge of Zeke.
He's definitely a harsh warrior, and the scene is like definitely telling us stuff that we basically already know, which is that Annie was trained by her father as a warrior, and it was
we
kind of
thinking,
this austere, harsh environment.
We were thinking War Chief Zeke. He's like a warrior,
right?
Yeah, but it maybe not. If you're at home and you've got your tally marks on like which back and forth we've gone like 20,000 times, if you've placed bets that it was Zeke, I'd probably say it's not looking like it's Zeke.
Yeah,
but it's still a chance, and also it could be someone we know. We don't know. We'll have to see.
I can't wait to get to the fire hose episodes of season 3.
I feel like it's going to be a mind blowing.
When they get to the basement, when they actually get there and it's the Grisha flashback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to take note of like every face I see while we're in Marley, so I can be like, okay, which one of you is
who is this guy?
Speaking of the Grisha flashback, this leads us to our next spoiler. Okay, it's not exactly a spoiler, but just something I want to talk about. The parallels. Okay, you remember when Grisha flashes back, and it's him and his sister, and they want to go see the airships, right?
Oh yeah.
So they sneak out of the gulag,
right?
And who's there to catch them? Not doing their jobs,
military
smoking.
Police,
military police, right? But it's like the Marleyan police, and there they are, lounging, corrupt, and they say, "Well, do you want us to take us back? To turn you in, or do you want to just settle it here?" And Grisha says, settle it here, knowing full well what they mean. So clearly this is kind of a practice they do all the time.
Yeah.
Where they just get to beat the piss out of LDNs who are in captive, which is one of the most frustrating, disgusting things. It is the not justice. It is the epitome of unjust. And so they just kick the snot out of Grisha.
The SS. They're the Nazis. Like, I'm sorry, but the comparisons are just so stark. And I think it's very much on purpose. You see it all throughout the season 3 episodes, the season 4 trailer. Like, the Eldians are kept in ghettos. They're treated as second-class citizens. They're sort of abused.
They have to have armbands on.
Yeah, they all have to wear the armbands to identify that they're Eldians, that they're the separate bad race.
They're dehumanized. The one guard takes Grisha's sister and feeds him to his dogs because she's no more than freaking some meat, right? And so we looked at that scene and we're like, these guys are so wicked. But guess what? Those 2 guards, don't they remind you of somebody in this episode? The military police guards who are filthy, they are corrupt, and I always want to point it out. Wrong is wrong is wrong.
Wherever it exists.
Doesn't matter if you're an American soldier in World War II fighting for freedom. If you raped, if you pillaged, if you did wrong to somebody, you were evil. I don't care if you were on the right side or not, right? It doesn't care where you are. If you are doing wickedness, it's not about the uniform you wear.
Yeah.
It's not about your race or your color or your creed. It's the actions you do. And the actions you do can prove your righteousness or your wickedness. So here's 2 military police. They're the good guys, right? They're the Eldians, and they're just as wicked and corrupt as those outside the walls. And so it's like in this war, if we go on and we become the thing we've sworn to destroy, if we become just as corrupt as the Marleyans, have we gained anything at all? We have to make sure as we fight, as we try to resist the tyranny, that we maintain righteousness so we don't become what we've sworn to destroy.
Yeah. Rachel, do you have any more comments on that before I move on?
No. Good.
Okay. So next spoiler part is Annie drops the line. Being seen as a person is all I want. We pretty much discussed this before, but I just want to point this out a little more succinctly here, that it seems like Armin is one of the only people who's at least made it clear that he sees Annie as a person, because he actually calls her like a person, like, oh, I think you're a good person or whatever. And it's in this rewatch that we're doing this particular time, it is becoming more and more clear to me that there is a special relationship, a subtle but special relationship between Armin and Annie. And then, remembering that in the season 4 trailer, we see Armin, what looks like Armin, the back of Armin, kneeling and touching the crystal that is containing Annie.
That relationship continues.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why he was the one he was alone in the wall, because they knew that when she saw him, she would react to that.
Well, I agree. No, I wholeheartedly agree. I think, again, as I was going kind of into the exchange that Armin and Annie had earlier, which is they're kind of both calling each other's bluffs, saying, well, you could have had me. Well, you could have had me, and you didn't. Like, we're here. Like, we're emotionally connected. Like, even if it's not romantic, but there's something between us. Like, I thought you understood me. And Annie feels betrayed. But here's the thing is, Armin is also kind of betrayed in a way, because it's like, I loved you. I didn't want you to be wicked, but like, here you are. Like, I'm still reaching out for you. Like, even now, I'm contending for you to turn in your heart or to repent. And
he's like, we can talk about this as friends.
In a world of Makaz, let's be an Armin every once in a while. Let's extend grace and try to reach out to the humanity and everybody.
I want to tear up a little bit. I actually really love that. I'm sorry, but like, there's just something inside of me. It's like when somebody's like a story, because I have several friends like this, but definitely when I lived in Kansas City for a while, a couple of friends who were like ex-convicts and stuff too. And like when you hear them talk about like their stories of turning from, criminals into like decent men and women, like there's usually at least one or two people that are in there that are kind of the Armins in that situation, where they're like, no, I like still believe in you. Like I was such a wicked kid, but somebody that was like reaching out to me was like, didn't give up on me, even though I was doing so much bad stuff. And like, I just love that redemption.
It's the Luke Skywalker. He's the eternal optimist. I still see good in you. Darth Vader, the most wicked guy in the universe. Right? I still see good in you.
I still see it in you, which it was still there.
Let's be the Lukes, man.
Okay, so
I was just gonna say, when she says when she's talking to Marlo, and she says if someone like you actually had real power, it might spell the end for all of us. I don't think she was just talking about the lazy soldiers. I think she was talking about the bigger picture, all of us, meaning all of her comrades and their plot to destroy humanity. Which
if somebody not just
somebody
some
that
Lord
was
Wald.
actually driven and cared about the betterment of other people and not just thought about themselves was in charge, then things would actually change.
Not just the Rice family or Lord Wald or
they could actually unify, like what Pixis was talking about.
Pixis or Erwin or
because what he's talking about is he wants to teach people to be good and to come together and work together towards a goal. And if they could actually get someone like that with real power, that would spell the end.
Yeah, and we see this Marlo, and we see him fall short, but because it's a spoiler section, we know in season 3, or is it end of season 2?
It's season 3, I'm pretty sure. When Marlo comes around, I'm pretty sure
he comes around. He actually joins the scouts, and he said, I should have joined the scouts all along.
Yeah, initially.
You guys are the ones fighting for freedom.
You're actually doing something with your life.
I think, I'm trying to remember where exactly it happens, but you have to think like the scouts get decimated hard.
Yeah, and they're in hiding.
Season 3, they're in hiding. I'm trying to remember. Well, we'll get there when we get there, but Marlo does come back around. That's why we mentioned that before.
And he ends up joining. I think he beats Hitch or knocks her out, or she joins. I don't remember. There's something where They were both
Hitch
together, I
is
think.
just a horrible person.
And he ends up
consistently
joining. Does she join? I don't remember. I'm sorry. We'll have to go back and watch
Hitch doesn't. She's not completely horrible, but she's definitely self-serving, and she joins whichever side she thinks is going to benefit her the most.
But at least Marlo made good on his promise, and in these last couple of years, he's finding the courage to stand up for what's right, even if it means abandoning the military police for a time. I'm saying Marlo. 2028, I'm voting for this guy.
Yeah.
I want Marlo to be in power and to instill the righteousness, to teach people to do right, to make politics about good people again.
All right, so next spoiler here, which is not a ridiculous spoiler, but something I didn't want to talk about too freely. So, as you're doing as you do the deductions to figure out that it's Annie, Armin's deductions pretty early on with the female Titan are it's somebody who knows Eren. Somebody who's, not only is this Titan looking for a target, but somebody who knows Eren's nickname.
Yeah.
Not just the name Eren, not just the guy who can shift into a Titan,
he's
but
the suicidal maniac,
as they call him.
What a great nickname.
Eren seems to know, as we suggested in previous 2 episodes ago, that Eren seems to know that it's Annie, or seems to realize that it's Annie right before she kicks his head off. He goes, and he goes to say the A, and we think that in the subtitles are
Annie?
We think that he's about to say, he realizes it's Annie. And they do tell us, it's the final episode, I think, is the one where they share that Eren, they do this really good side-by-side, or this a combined shot thing where they show Eren flashing back to Annie in her combat stance as a human, and then they overlay Annie as a Titan doing the exact same stance. So Eren seems to know that it's Annie because of that. And then Jean and Armin seem to know that it's Annie because of they realize it's somebody who was there the day that Eren transformed, which is a pretty small number of people who actually witnessed it, because it was only the gang that was in the tower where they had run out of gas in the library. I can't remember what it was, or something like that. So had to be somebody who was there that day. So again, not ridiculously a spoiler part, but I just want to point that out, that that is some Ishiyama or whatever must have sat down. Anybody who writes a good thriller, suspense novels, they tend to do a ton of timelines before they even pen the words, before they even write the dialogue and stuff like that. They will put together these outlines after outline after outline and get all of the details and plot points in order, in logical order first, and then write out the events and the emotions and the dialogue and stuff like that.
And that's how you don't end up making $1 million
Plot
movie with huge plot holes or contingency errors
that the
throughout
Grand
all of the
Canyon
show.
could fit into.
I don't know if we have to talk any more about that. I just wanted to point that out. Spoiler: Underground City seems real. Underground City seems like it's very likely very real. There's stairs going down there.
Right.
And Eren actually gets trapped down there in the next episode. But I think it's real because there's effing Titans in the walls, guys.
Well,
there's a lot going on in the interior here.
Where does Levi come from?
Where does Levi come from?
The underground
The
city.
underground city. That is the underground city. They were going right for it. And for some reason, Annie doesn't want to go down there.
Well, she doesn't want to
and I
get trapped.
don't think it's just about her wanting to get trapped.
I think she knows.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But I got to say, if you guys have watched the newest OVA episode, which I have, and we're going to do a breakdown on, they take us to the underground city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's where Levi grew up.
Okay.
Right? And I don't know if that
Special
specific episode. I don't know if that specific entryway was to the slums where Kenny and Levi go or whatever, or if that was just kind of like a tunnel they were going to build, and maybe it branches off, or maybe there's more. But yeah, we're gonna find out more about the underground cities.
Dang,
all right,
dude.
cool.
Now you're spoiling it for me.
Yeah.
Nice. Next spoiler. Okay, these are all really connected. The complex layout part, same thing. I think that there's. Oh, this is the part I wanted to get to. So they show a bunch of overhead shots of the interior here of Walsina, Stohess district, and so on. I think it looks a lot like what they show in the season 4 trailer, but without the trains. So that sort of lends the credit to my theory that at least some of what they show in the season 4 trailer may actually be Paradise, but slightly in the future, maybe some time has passed. They've developed new technology,
or is it just all of the cities in Paradise are based off
modeled
of
after
the cities?
Well,
Or did the founding Titan make the cities?
Yes.
In the previous Marley, and they just took them, and so that's why the design's all like that.
Well, whatever it is, I don't know if I can get so specific. I mean, I see where you're going with this, but your point is Sorry, words are difficult.
hard.
My brain is not fully
11:30
functioning. It's late. But my point, what I'm trying to say is that I think that there's something to that. I think that again, the whole idea of like there being an underground city. The reason there's an underground city is because there's there has to be a reason for there to be an underground city. You don't just build one to have one. You build one for protection. You build it as some kind of like getaway. You build it for some kind of reason. It's there. And the thing is, humans' memories have been wiped, 100 years ago. So they don't even know why the walls are there.
Yeah.
So whoever put the walls up, knowing knowing that there is in fact Titans inside the walls, also built a way out and a whole city underground. So I think there's there's something behind that.
That actually brought me to something I was thinking about this episode was we don't know a lot of the reasons why. We just know that these things exist, right? So the whole alcoves, we were told that they were to like attract Titans, to keep Titans away.
Maybe not.
Maybe they're not. Maybe they're
Maybe
for
something
some
else
other
to it.
thing. Maybe that's just how you had to design the dumb Titans to make them transform into the walls. Or
Right.
maybe, I don't know.
Which they still haven't explained exactly what Titans or what kind of Titans are inside the walls. Dang it.
And the whole underground cavern of raw rice.
Yes. That one's all made out of freaking Titan crystal, which is essentially the same material as the walls, right?
I wonder what kind of
Something
warranty
close.
they get on that. Is it watertight?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Can you weld
It's
to
also
it?
interesting if you look at this map, how all of the alcoves are connected. They're all in
Yeah, by
line
the
with
rivers.
each other.
Oh, that is an interesting point. We need to do some.
Why is
some
there
short-
only 4 on this gigantic
YouTube
outer
videos.
wall?
Could be
and-
like crop
on this.
circles or something like that. Could all mean something.
Well, I don't know. I just think it's interesting that they're in alignment with each other, and I also think it's strange that if you're actually trying to use it as a defense,
Yeah.
the outer wall would have more of them because it's a bigger wall, but it only has 4.
Yeah, and what the heck?
Why?
What did Ymir do to gain these powers? What kind of deal with the devil? Was it the devil?
The original Ymir?
Was it
or
an
the
actual
Ymir we
deal
know?
with the
No,
devil?
original.
Like-
Remember like that picture of like a demon talking to her, and I'm like,
Yeah, that is the.
What
that
the
is
crap is that even
final
about?
Okay, if you-
ultimate question here, because first time I watched through this series, first season, first time through, I'm sitting with Daniel. He was showing it to me. He's like, "You're gonna love this." Like a couple of episodes in, the very first thing was like, okay, well, here's my theory about what the Titans are. I was just instantly doing that.
Your
I was
mind
like, the
goes there
Titans,
because they don't tell you.
they don't tell you. And I said the Titans are one of 2 things. For sure, the Titans are one of 2 things. They are, and my number 1 choice was they are a military technology that has kind of gone awry, which I was actually right about.
Yeah.
By the way, I said that and I was like, that's actually technically correct because they are a weapon, which is the weapon is technically being used correctly because the Titans, the dumb Titans are being used to oppress the Eldians. So like, I don't know if you could say it's gone awry, but what I'm saying is it was developed and now it's kind of like taken over.
Yeah.
My original theory was that like there was a war a long time ago between 2 societies and they became Titan shifters themselves and the technology kind of like went awry. Now they're all oppressed by their own technology. That was actually my original theory.
Well, there was a war a long time ago.
There was a war. Exactly. Here's the thing is I had some of it right. There was a war a long time ago. It is a military technology, but what I didn't realize is the like other gaps between the societies and that they're unleashing the Titans to like keep them inside the walls and so on. What the heck? Where was I going with that? There's a reason I brought that up. It's late. Trying here. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. That's all I got for now. Ymir.
Founding Titan powers.
Oh,
Where'd you get them from?
that was it. There you go. Thank you. The ultimate question, though, is the Titan stuff itself, is it all science or is there like a spiritual
Is there
aspect?
a supernatural element at
Yes.
play here or not? Because
Yes.
they're really, so far, everything has been very technological and scientific and explained by all kinds of things.
Mhm.
But then there's this weird cult.
Yes. the
Why?
priests
Why do
thing.
they
Yeah.
believe in this supernatural element? And what is that going to have to do with anything? And then, like you were saying, did she actually make a real actual deal with the devil, or is that just some kind of metaphor for something else?
Are those stories even true?
Is the devil actually some military leader and not an actual demon?
Yeah. And
Who
do you
knows?
remember when they say about the Titans that they don't weigh as much as they should?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not scientific.
Yeah, there's something like
so there's something else going on. And when they said that, I was like, okay, this is a projection. Titans are projection. There's a simulation. There's something in their brains that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I try to come up with all these theories and they never really go back into it. It's like, wait a second.
Get, super into it. Oh, yeah. Is the Ymir...
Do they have hollow bones like birds? Like, what is going on?
I want to know if the Ymir story is true at all, or if that itself is some kind of legend, essentially, that they use to explain away. What I'm saying is,
they've forgotten, or what
we
they
know
don't
the
know.
Eldians, we know the people in paradise are deceived because their memories have been wiped, so we can, and then the deception laid upon them is unveiled. But who's to say that the Marlians aren't also deceived in some
remember how the propaganda looked one way? Oh, you guys were all terrible people, and the propaganda looks the other way, and it's like, no, we were all really good people, and it's like, usually the truth is somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Well, and it's clear that, for sure, Reiner, he's like, you guys aren't the evil, awful demons that I was told you were. You're people just like we are.
Oh, Reiner.
Come on, Reiner.
And it seems like even Annie is struggling with that to an extent as well. And that's why I think when she says, that hurt, I think she's like, wow, I actually care about these people, and I care about how they feel about me, and the fact that they trapped me sucks because that means they know I betrayed them, and I feel bad. I feel hurt.
And I was taught that I was not going to feel anything because these are just not humans, and I could go do whatever I want, but I feel something against.
But you feel something because you are of the same blood.
And we already saw her, saying, I'm so sorry, and having that moment where she's breaking down and showing emotion all the way back there.
And we know when
she's already shook up by that.
When she
way
says,
before this point.
I'm a failed warrior, that's the same language that Bertolt and Reiner use, talking about warriors and being soldiers.
Yeah.
So obviously, they're from the same training program, which we did see a clip of in the season 4 trailer.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we've gone long, as per usual.
We're gonna take off.
We're always we're gonna go quick.
We have to go to bed, and it's time. But we love you guys. Email us. Check us out on YouTube.
Send
also
us
on
coffee.
Facebook.
Just kidding.
Send coffee. Yeah, we're thinking about doing a P.O. box or something at
so
some
people
point.
can actually send us things, which would be cool.
Like I said, we got season 2 changes coming up. If you're still listening all the way in, you're a champ. We got season 2 changes, including hopefully a logo, a unique logo, which I would like to, without infringing on any copyrights, put on a t-shirt and wear myself / open it up to you guys if you would want to purchase one.
But hey, as this episode's coming to a close, first of all, thank you for being part of the cadets, the crew, the audience. Appreciate it. Second of all, as you're going to hit pause or delete or whatever you're on this episode, just go ahead and give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us a review. We really appreciate it. It helps us out. And you can share the Attack on Titan goodness that we share in the community.
Yep.
So,
all right, dudes.
Peace out, guys.
Cadets, we love you.
Good night.
See you in the next episode.
Or good morning or good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is where you are. It's probably not 11:40 at night.
Amen and amen. Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.